So Jesus is healing all these people, and he tells demons and humans, don't tell anybody about me. I don't want anybody to know. And the demons stay silent, and the dude is like, I gotta tell everybody. It's pretty cool. So come and read with me. Hey everybody, welcome to Bibletime. Craig here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the place that we read the Bible together every day, and my hope is that you get in the habit of doing that in your own home, in your own heart, in your own life, every day. And how obvious is it that we need God's thoughts, God's ways, God's heart, God's will, God's kingdom to come in this generation. So important. And so I just want to encourage you to read this with me today, not out of religion, not out of just tradition and going through the motions, but that your heart would be engaged with a desperation that says, God, what do you want from me? What does your word have to say to me today? And Spirit, what do you want to speak specifically to me? And I just really want to help people grow in their relationship with Jesus and closeness and intimacy with him, and that we would walk that out in obedience. So we're reading in Mark chapter 1, starting in verse 27 today. So if you have a Bible, grab it. If you have a pen, grab it. May not be digital, but that's even better in my opinion. I actually like the paper and pen, but I'm doing this for the video's sake. So anyway, let's read the word today with that lens on. That's what it says. Jesus heals a man with an unclean spirit is the subtitle. And they went into Capernaum, and immediately on the Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching. This is like his traditional practice. Oftentimes you see his ministry is done in the synagogue, which is the official church house. And it's really interesting because he wasn't a rabbi officially. Like, you have to go through all this training, be under another rabbi. You kind of have their name of, what rabbi did you teach? Did you learn under? And so to be able to teach in the synagogue, typically that's how it would have worked. But he was, and we see this even at age 12, like his words were so astounding people that they let him speak. And so it's interesting though that a lot of times when he's teaching to the leaders, it's in the synagogue on Sabbath. When he's ministering to the people, it's all the rest of the days. And they were astonished at his teaching, for he taught as one who had authority. I love this caveat. In other words, the teaching that they normally hear is maybe really good teaching, maybe really good content, but doesn't feel like it's coming from somebody with authority. So, not as the scribes. And immediately there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth?" So multiple demons probably. "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent and come out of him." And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying out with a loud voice, came out of him, and they were all amazed. So that they questioned among themselves, saying, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." And at once his fame spread everywhere throughout all the surrounding region in Galilee. Fame. And immediately he left the synagogue and entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law lay ill with a fever, and immediately they told him about her. And he came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and the fever left her, and she began to serve them. I'm noticing that he really likes to use this word immediately. I don't know what that means. Let's just look it up because it's so interesting. Typically we're here for devotional reading, not study. But this is very interesting and probably quick, so let's see what it says. Euthus. At once. Straight right, immediately, straight away, by and by, forthwith. I wonder what the drive is, what the motivation is for Mark to be using that word over and over and over again. I don't know, maybe it's one of the reasons why they say Mark's the fast-paced gospel. It's just he's immediately Jesus did this, and then immediately that, and then immediately that. It's he must have, I don't know if it's significant to us at all, but he's using it a lot. So immediately they told him about her, and he came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick and oppressed by demons, and the whole city was gathered together at the door. And he healed many who were sick with various diseases and cast out demons. And he would not permit demons to speak because they knew him. It's so interesting. Up here, I almost feel like he was saying, be silent to the demon, simply because he didn't want the demon to tell everybody who he was at that point in time. So it's super funny just to consider that, maybe he didn't care so much that the demons don't talk, but that he specifically didn't want the demon to let everybody else know who he was, so he's didn't let him talk. Be silent and come out of him. And then it says that he would not permit the demons to speak, for they knew him. Super interesting. All right, and rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. And Simon and those who were with him searched for him, and they found him and said to him, everyone is looking for you. And he said to them, let us go on to the next towns, that I may preach there also. For that is why I came out. And he went throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and casting out demons. So he spent a lot of time going to what's called the desolate place, the lonely place, the wilderness. And he would often retreat to be alone to pray. I think we've talked about this before, but it's so interesting that Jesus prays. What is the necessity for God to pray? It's not the same as us praying, right? We need to pray. We need to ask God for things. We need to get that connection. So, I don't know, have you ever thought about how interesting it is that Jesus would pray? But I think that it just emphasizes like what the Trinity is and what the nature of God is. The nature of God is relationship. It actually emphasizes the nature of prayer. The nature of prayer really is relationship. It's not just some transaction asking for something from a deity. Jesus' example to us is that he loved to spend time in relationship with the Father and the Spirit. I don't know, did he even need to ask for things? Did he like, hey, my needs, like, or is it just like it was time talking and conversating and listening and hearing the Father's heart? And I don't know, like we don't have a ton of examples. We have the Lord's Prayer, and then we have the high priestly prayer, John 17, where Jesus is asking that we would be one. But we do see many times that it would say that he would go off alone and pray. So, yeah. Sometimes I wonder, why is it that it's so difficult for us to pray? So many of us, myself included, it's like to sit and pray for 20 minutes or an hour or more is like almost unheard of, generally speaking, across the board. And to do it and not have your mind wander or fall asleep or be thinking about your grocery list or whatever, and so it's like when you meet those people that have like a deep prayer life and you feel like they're so close to God, I wonder if it's that they're close to God because they choose to pray, or if they have an easy time praying because they're close to God. And I guess I'm just feeling like we should pray more. I hope you are too. Isn't this interesting that it says that they found him and said, everybody is looking for you. And which is like what he came to do, is to preach. He has this audience that's interested in looking for him. And instead of saying, okay, let's go talk to him, he says, let's go to the next town. And then he says, this is why. That is why I came out. He came to not just stick with one group of people, but to spread all throughout the region and preach. So he'd preach and cast out demons and heal. And a leper came to him, imploring him, and kneeling, said to him, if you will, you can make me clean. Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I will, be clean. And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. And Jesus sternly charged him and sent him away at once. And he said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone. So he makes the demon stay silent, and then he told even this dude that got healed to stay silent in terms of talking about who he is. But go show yourself to the priests and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded, for a proof to them. I think an offering, monetary offering. But he went out and began to talk freely about it, and he spread the news, so that Jesus could no longer openly enter a town, but was out in desolate places, and people were coming to him from every quarter. I love this. Jesus says, don't say anything. And he says, but he went out and began to talk freely about it and spread the news. Like, I mean, I know Jesus told him not to, but that's pretty awesome. Like, he couldn't help himself. He had to tell everybody. I like this too. If you will, you can. If you will, you can. And he stretched out his hand and he said, I do will. So this is like, if you are willing, and this is, I know you're able. Are you willing? I know you're able. I know you're able. And Jesus says, I am willing. Thank you for acknowledging that I'm able. We both know that I'm also willing. That's a really important thing to remember when we're praying for healing, to consider the fact that Jesus, it wasn't just a matter of, is he able to do something, but oftentimes it was this like, hey, are you willing to do it? And I think every time he was like, yeah, I am willing. So there's a lot in here. I think a lot to consider, a lot to be challenged by. But for me, it's this final thought here that's, other than feeling like I need to pray more, it's this thought of like, okay, let me think about the things that I can do. What are the things that I'm capable of? What am I willing to do? I'm capable of speaking to people and sharing with relative clarity the gospel, but am I willing? I'm capable of doing that, but am I willing to step out of my comfort zone and my busy life and take the time to do that? I am capable of serving and meeting many needs, whether somebody, I don't know, whatever it might be. I'm capable of a lot. Put it like this. The things that God has made us capable of, oftentimes we don't do them because we're unwilling. And I want to be willing to follow what Jesus wants when he asks. So I'm going to pray about that. I hope that you'll spend some time praying about whatever God's speaking to you. And I'll plan on picking up with you again tomorrow, Mark chapter 2. God bless.